Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The film begins with the appearance of a supplier named Paige. He is a film producer and meets young people who work in the distribution of illegal substances. He presents them with the latest product on the market, which is a power capsule. This capsule gives superhuman strength derived from animal genes to human genes. The distributors are impressed with the product and they start working with it, distributing it throughout the city of New Orleans. Among these distributors is a surveillance girl named Robin, whose identity is hidden. One time, while she is selling the capsule to the young men, she is robbed by them. Officer Frank Schiffer intervenes and saves her from the situation, allowing the young men to escape. Afterwards, he buys the capsule from Robin himself to know how to deal with its users with the same efficiency of strength, even though this is illegal. Frank and Robin become friends and he gifts her a scooter for her birthday. The next morning, a guy named Artie gets out of his car and looks for a distributor named Newt. He arrives at Newt's door, but Newt is hesitant to let him in. Artie tells him to ask someone named Simon about him, who is known as the Major. Newt goes to close the door and tries to call Simon, but Artie breaks in with a weapon and looks for Newt, eventually finding him. Newt escapes from the house, running away from Artie, who takes Newt's phone and keeps it. Newt finds himself cornered and needs to use the capsule to defend himself. He uses it with an overdose. His power manifests as he is engulfed in flames. However, Artie manages to capture him even in this state. They throw him into water to extinguish the flames and ask him about the supplier who provides him with the capsules. Newt tells them it's someone named Paige, but the overdose causes Newt to explode and die. On the same day, Robin wakes up and checks on her mother, Erin, who has diabetes. Her mother tells her that her cousin Newt had an incident at his house. Robin then goes to school and sends a message to Newt to check on him. However, the message reaches Artie, who has taken his phone. He tells her that he wants to meet her while impersonating Newt. At the same time, there is chaos and an armed situation happening in the city where all police forces are gathering, including Officer Frank. The criminal is under the influence of the power capsule, which gives him the ability to disappear. Frank is forced to use the capsule as well to be able to overpower him. During the chase, the criminal shoots at Frank, but nothing happens to him due to his super strength. Captain Crane, who is Frank's boss at work, is informed about what happened. He meets Frank and tells him to hand over his badge and gun since he used the capsule during the operation. However, Frank tells Crane that he noticed two people talking to him at the time of the crime and asked him to stop the operation, clearly indicating that Crane was under their control. Frank offers to help Crane get out from under their control. Crane shows him a picture of Artie and tells him that Artie is the source of the power in the capsules, and if Frank captures him, he can guarantee his return to his job. Artie is waiting for Robin at a restaurant. She is late and arrives at night but does not find Newt there. She leaves the restaurant and discovers that someone has punctured the tire of her scooter, so she has to drag it home. On her way, Artie kidnaps her and puts her in the back of a truck, locking her in and driving away. They arrive at an abandoned area, and he tells Robin to calm down and answer his questions, or else her mother Erin will suffer. Robin calms down, and Artie shows her a picture of a tall, broad white man with a long beard, asking her who he is. She says she doesn't know him, and he forces her to lead him to the supplier who provides her with the power capsules. At that moment, there is a meeting with Paige and a woman with authority and influence in South America named Matriarch, whose goal is to complete a significant deal for distributing capsules in South America and imposing her control over their use. Meanwhile, Artie is driving towards the suppliers with Robin, and Robin sends a distress message to Frank, which Artie sees her sending on her phone. He takes it from her and orders her to take him to the suppliers. They reach the location, and Robin gets out of the car and goes inside, while Artie follows her. However, someone comes up and asks Artie something, causing him to lose track of her. Robin reaches the supplier and tells him that someone is following her. The supplier gets angry, takes a dose from the power capsule, and goes after Artie. He asks Artie where Paige is, but a big fight breaks out between them. Artie manages to finish them off with his gun, but he gets shot. He enters a large truck and finds Robin inside, who is thinking about her daughter, who disappeared, named Tracy. Artie shows Robin the surveillance screens in the truck and reveals to her that the power capsules contain tracking chips and that their manufacturers are testing them on the residents of New Orleans like lab rats. He asks Robin to lead him to them, but she is scared and runs away. The supplier who was shot manages to activate the capsule's effect, and his wounds heal quickly, allowing him to chase after Robin. However, Artie saves her and kills him due to the capsule's effect wearing off. Artie is severely injured and asks Robin for help, but she tells him that he killed her cousin Newt, so why would she help him? He then reveals the truth that he didn't kill him, but Newt took an overdose and died, and that he is looking for his daughter who was kidnapped. He loses consciousness afterward, and Robin decides to take him to her mother's dog clinic, where she works, to treat his wounds. Meanwhile, Frank goes to Robin's house to check on her after seeing the distress message. He finds two officers talking to Erin about having seen her daughter Robin with Artie. He sneaks up from behind and pretends to be Erin's boyfriend, whispering in her ear that he is following Robin. He goes live and talks about the racism of the officers because Erin is black, and they entered her house without a search warrant or even showed her their badge. The officers become anxious and leave, and Erin asks him who he is. He introduces himself, saying that her daughter is in trouble and that he wants to help her, asking her for a tape. Meanwhile, Artie and Robin are still in the clinic, and she continues to show him how talented she is in the field of rehabilitation. Artie admires her performance and leaves the clinic, telling her that he needs to reach the man in the picture he showed her. They agree that Robin will go with him in exchange for him helping her with $10,000. After that, the agreement drops to $5,000, and you get in the car with him and see a picture of Tracy's daughter. He tells her about a company called Telios, which gathered soldiers, put them in a room, exposed them to radiation, and altered their genes. Art was one of these soldiers and tried using his power once, but it killed people close to him, so he decided not to use it again. When he had his daughter Tracy, he noticed that she was different. She never got sick, and as she grew, became much stronger. Her superpower worked without the capsules. When Telios found out about Tracy, they wanted to experiment on her. When Art refused, they kidnapped her. Art and Robin arrive at the supplier's headquarters, and it turns out to be the same place that Frank is heading to after tracking Erin's phone, which was attached to the police officer's car. Art asks Robin to wait in the car, pretends to be drunk, and enters the building. He speaks with a security guard, kills him, and takes his clothes. He enters the hall and finds Beiji having a meeting with his men. Frank arrives at that time, sees Robin, and asks what she's doing there. He shows her Art's picture and says he's wanted for arrest because he's the source of the power and needs to be questioned. Robin explains that Art is just looking for his daughter and is a good person. Frank asks her not to believe him and demands to know where Art is. Inside the hall, Art is seen testing the new capsules on a young woman, giving her freezing powers and controlling the heat around her so she doesn't die from the cold. He kills one of Beiji's men and talks to him as if he were a waiter. Beiji recognizes him and finds out that the man has a gun, threatening him with it from beneath the tray. A woman in the hall sees the security guard's body and screams, causing panic in the hall. The fight starts between Beiji's men and Matrich's men. After the small battle ends, we discover that everyone is dead except for Beiji. Beiji shows Art a picture of the person who kidnapped his daughter and demands he speak, shooting his hand to force him. Art reveals that the entire operation is happening on a massive ship called Genesis. At that moment, Frank enters, raises his weapon, and orders everyone to freeze. Beiji activates the capsule on his necklace and transforms into a giant, running after them. They arrive at a place with gas tanks. Art shoots at him, blowing up the place and killing Beiji. Afterward, Frank arrests Art and they head to the center. Along the way, Art tells Frank that what they are doing is wrong and that his daughter was kidnapped and must be found. He reveals that the person who told Frank to arrest Art is working with the criminals who manufacture the capsules and that they plan to kill Frank and take Art alive because they need him. They are extracting Tracy's DNA to make more capsules and are testing them on the people of New Orleans. Frank believes him and is convinced by his words. He decides they will make the perpetrators pay and regret their actions. They drive to the port where the Genesis ship is. Robin follows them on her scooter. Frank hands over Art to Gardner, who is responsible for making and supplying the capsules. Gardner is the same person who kidnapped Art's daughter, Tracy. Frank meets Robin outside the port, gives her Bluetooth headphones to communicate, and asks her to wait outside. He takes a dose of the power capsules and enters the port, where Art is held by Gardner. She tells him they need his daughter's cells for experiments to advance human medicine. She orders her men to take him to the ship's cell. Robin manages to sneak in by getting into a car loaded onto the ship. She reaches Frank's control room, checks the cameras, and monitors the ship's movements. She communicates with him through the headphones. Frank grabs his weapon and heads toward the cell where Art is kept. Robin activates the alarm to distract the security on the ship and takes control of the ship's doors, ordering Gardner's men to check the ship and see what's going on. Gardner tries to access the ship's locked doors, but he has to take a dose of the power capsule to break them open. He heads toward the room, and Gardner orders the captain to prepare the ship to move. Robin sees Tracy on the cameras in her room and tells Frank. She also informs him that someone is following her. Frank reaches the control room but finds that Robin has disabled all the monitors and she has escaped. The ship starts to move. Art speaks to one of the guards in his cell, telling him he has the strongest power on Earth, shrimp power. The shrimp can heat the water around it to 8,000 degrees, the temperature of the sun's surface, and shoot the hot water at its target at bullet speed, melting anything it touches. He manages to break out, and Frank enters to help Art kill the guard. Robin reaches Tracy's location and tells her that her father is there to save her. She moves with Art to the ship's escape route, but Gardner catches Robin and tries to stop her. Art uses a power capsule to break free, as he was cornered and had no choice. He unleashes his true power, killing Gardner and his men in seconds, but he almost dies from overexerting himself. Tracy uses her power to heal him, allowing him to survive. They escape on a life raft as the ship sinks. The next day, Frank talks to Art, telling him he will expose those responsible for the capsules in the city, and that the story isn't over. They part ways, and Art tells Robin that she should pursue her dream of becoming a famous rapper. He gives her the money they agreed on. Robin returns home, shows her mother the money, and hugs her. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.